Origin stories, Amazons, and Nicolas Cage. There's a lot of things we'll never see from these DC shows that got the axe. In the live-action world, DC hasn't had a lot of luck with the Green Lantern. First off, the film starring Ryan Reynolds, which was meant to kickstart the DCEU, flopped at the box office, making $219 million from a $200 million budget. Then the attempt to introduce the hero in the Arrowverse was largely a start-stop affair, as the CW never fully unleashed John Diggle as the new Green Lantern. There seemed to be some hope on the horizon, though, as the Arrowverse's mastermind, Greg Berlanti, began work on a Green Lantern TV series for HBO Max in 2019. Berlanti brought in Seth Grahame-Smith as a writer and showrunner for the series. Of course, Grahame-Smith is no novice to comic book adaptations, having written the story for the Lego Batman movie. The showrunner got to work on the Green Lantern show, and two leads were cast in the shape of Finn Wittrock as Guy Gardner and Jeremy Irvine as Alan Scott. The show would have featured other Lanterns from the comics as well as an entirely new Lantern. Grahame-Smith completed 8 episodes for the season. In October 2022, however, a decision was made to pivot in a different direction and make the show about Jon Stewart. The showrunner departed the show thereafter. The launch of HBO Max ushered in a wave of excitement from DC fans. As Warner Bros.' official streaming service, part of the grand plan was to utilize DC's properties to create exclusive shows for the platform. In 2021, Variety reported that a Constantine series was being developed by J.J. Abrams and his Bad Robot Productions company. Reportedly, it would have formed a part of the Justice League Dark world that Abrams was set to build out for HBO Max. There were also rumors floating around social media that Gangs of London star Shope Derisu was in line to portray the Hellblazer on the show. However, the actor told NME that he wasn't ever going to play Constantine, though stopped short of discussing if he had been cast for another role in the series. In September 2022, something that no one expected happened. A sequel to the 2005 Constantine film was announced. According to Variety, Keanu Reeves would return to portray the lead character on the big screen. Simultaneously, the film's announcement also signaled the end for HBO Max's Constantine series.
A gift, John.
One of the more interesting propositions that was meant to debut on the DC Universe streaming app was a show called Metropolis. The drama series was meant to act as a Superman prequel that would have followed Lex Luthor and Lois Lane in the infamous city as they explored the mythos of this part of the DC Universe. The brains behind Metropolis were John Stevens and Danny Cannon, who had been the executive producers on the Fox series Gotham. 13 episodes were ordered in 2018, with plans for the show to air in 2019. However, Deadline later reported that the show went into redevelopment. Later that year, though, The Hollywood Reporter confirmed that the show had been canned, despite no official announcement from DC about the project's status. That said, it's safe to say that whichever incarnation of the series was planned back then is all but dead in the water now. Perhaps some of the ideas for the show might be utilized for future Superman adaptations. Having debuted in Omega Men #3, it took Lobo 36 years to make his live-action debut in the second season of the SyFy series Krypton. The main man is portrayed by Emmett J. Scanlon, who embraced the character's wild nature and won over many fans who had doubted his casting at first. However, Lobo's appearance in Krypton was meant to serve as a backdoor pilot for his own show. Scanlon had signed on to star in his own solo series, which would have featured Krypton executive producer Cameron Welsh being involved in the spin-off too. Unfortunately, the ratings for Season 2 dropped dramatically, and Krypton was cancelled. The Lobo TV series ended up being collateral damage in the process as well. In an interview with CBR, Scanlon reflected on playing Lobo, saying the character was the perfect merger of Wolverine and the Joker. He added how thinking about the main man brings back fond memories. However, he is disappointed that his run ended so unexpectedly.
Holy Frank-a-rolly! Feels like I'm being torn apart! Cool.
Arrow birthed a number of other shows, such as The Flash and DC's Legends of Tomorrow. The Season 8 episode, titled Green Arrow and the Canaries, was meant to serve as a backdoor pilot for a future spin-off series of the same name on the CW. The storyline was set in 2040, where Oliver Queen's daughter Mia takes up the Green Arrow mantle and teams up with Laurel Lance and Dina Drake to take down the Rogues. In January 2021, the plug was pulled on any potential Green Arrow and the Canaries series as the CW decided not to go ahead with it. Soon after, Arrow co-creator Mark Guggenheim revealed on Twitter that the decision was largely influenced by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Katie Cassidy wasn't too shattered by this turn of events, though, as she explained to comicbookmovie.com that the Arrowverse had been more than successful. She said, "I say this in the most respectful, kind, realistic way. We really, really milked that cow."
I don't think I've taken down so many buildings at once.
There's a reason the Titans TV series doesn't have teen anywhere in its title. However, there are many Teen Titans fans who would love nothing more than to see a live-action adaptation of the beloved youthful team and all their exuberance. And it almost happened before Titans received the green light. As reported by Variety, TNT had planned to make a Teen Titans show that centered around Dick Grayson and his transition from Robin to Nightwing. In 2016, former TNT president Kevin Riley announced the production had been shelved and would not take flight at all. The Titans lived on, though, and finally received their own show in 2018. The CW's Arrowverse proved that it wasn't afraid to take risks on relatively newer DC characters, like Naomi. In fact, there was even a plan to create a Wonder Girl show about Yara Flor, the hero who is half Amazonian and half Brazilian rain god. Flora hadn't even made her debut in DC Comics at the time of this announcement in 2020, but she had been deemed compelling and interesting enough to get her own show. Unfortunately, it felt like the brakes were pumped on the series before it had even gotten out of first gear. Showrunner and writer Dalen Rodriguez broke the news about the cancellation of Wonder Girl on her Twitter account in February 2021. Yara Flor went on to make her official debut in Dark Knight's Death Metal No. 7, which was released in January 2021. For 3 seasons, Hawk and Dove were an important part of Titans as everyone's favorite crime-fighting couple. After Jason Todd clipped Hawk's wings, Dove also fluttered away from the series. Actor Alan Ritchson revealed to Entertainment Weekly that it wasn't his decision to leave the show, but a choice made by the creative team and producers who needed to cut down the number of cast members. Discussing his experience on Titans, Ritchson shared some important details about the characters of Hawk and Dove and how they were originally supposed to feature from the inception. He said, "My initial deal was for 2 episodes, and I had a separate deal for a Hawk and Dove spin-off. And when we shot those 2 episodes, they really enjoyed us as Titans and invited us to join more episodes in the back half of the first season." Richardson added he believed the chances of a spin-off were always unlikely if the characters were a core part of the Titans team, but he was told that it would happen since they were so popular on the show. Unfortunately, the spin-off never materialized.
You didn't wait for me.
Yeah, you would have said not tonight.
The superhero Static first catapulted the public's attention with the release of the Static Shock animated show. Running for 52 episodes, fans fell in love with Virgil Hawkins and how he balanced the crime-fighting life with the trials and tribulations of being a teenager. The goodwill of the series resulted in many people wondering when a live-action version of Static would debut. In 2014, Warner Bros. Unveiled a new division called Blue Ribbon Content, which would be responsible for creating shows and cartoons for the studio. One of the first projects announced for this venture was a live-action Static Shock show created by director, writer, and producer Reginald Hudlin. A year later, in an interview with Flicks in the City, actor Tyler James Williams suggested that Jaden Smith had already been cast as the lead for the show. As interesting as the show sounded, it never seemed to go anywhere. The idea for the show appears to have morphed into a film, as it was announced in March 2021 that Hudlin and Michael B. Jordan would be producing a live-action Static Shock movie. The superhero boom in the 2010s inspired networks and studios to get in on a piece of the action. Considering the success of the 70s Wonder Woman TV series starring Linda Carter, executives must have been salivating at the thought of trying something similar in a more lucrative, modern era. In 2011, a pilot for a new potential show was produced, which starred Adrian Palicki as the titular hero, but it was never picked up. A year later, Vulture reported that the CW was eyeing a series that would follow a young Diana Prince before she became Wonder Woman. The working title for the show was Amazon. For a few years, murmurs about the project occasionally popped up, and the show remained a possibility. However, it all went ice cold after the confirmation that Gal Gadot would portray Wonder Woman in the DC Extended Universe. The CW's former CEO, Mark Pedowitz, revealed at the 2017 TV Critics Association that the network ceased all plans to take a stab at Amazon after the success of Gadot's Wonder Woman had ended any chance of it ever happening.
You are stronger than you believe.
August 2022 was a tumultuous time for DC fans, as the new leadership of Warner Bros. Discovery took the hammer to various projects. It all started with the shocking cancellation of the Batgirl movie, but the anthology series Strange Adventures was also revealed to be off the table around this time. However, the news of the show's cancellation was actually broken by filmmaker Kevin Smith on his podcast Hollywood Babylon. Smith explained he had been working on an episode for the show that would have featured Bizarro and Jimmy Olsen. He added that he was trying to secure Nicolas Cage's services to portray Bizarro, which would have certainly been a big get for the production. The Hollywood Reporter cited its own sources that said the project had been silently canned months before the WB-DC purge. In the world of comics, Madame Xanadu is a well-known and powerful sorcerer in the mystic part of the DC universe. It might have taken a while to happen, but the character eventually made her live-action debut in 2019's Swamp Thing TV show, where she was portrayed by actor Gerald Prescott. While it would have made sense to spin off the character from that series into her own solo vehicle, the controversial axing of Swamp Thing ended this iteration of Madame X. However, J.J. Abrams and his production company, Bad Robot Productions, had other ideas which would have incorporated Madame X into their vision of DC shows on HBO Max. Abrams' end goal was to create a Justice League Dark franchise for the streamer in which multiple characters would have had their own programs. One part of the overall puzzle was a Madame X series that would have been helmed by writer, director, and producer Angela Robinson. Unfortunately, the turbulence at Warner Bros. Discovery and its upheaval of DC programming in 2022 claimed yet another victim in the shape of the Madame X show.